From all the research that I've done about your work, one of your main themes is cultural identity, and you've written about inappropriate casting with your play Whitewashed. But I think it's your most current, Gringolandia, deals with a Cuban man returning home after many years, and I think I want to start with that. You're from Miami, I gather, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So let's go with where the genesis of this play came from. Did Gringolandia reflect an actual incident of returning home, or is this an amalgam of what's happening down there that a lot of people really aren't apprised of?
Yeah, I would say definitely the latter. It's a fictional story. Of course, half of my family is Cuban, and I have a lot of personal connection with stories like that, as do many people in Miami. But yeah, it's totally fictional. It was commissioned by Zoetic Stage, and we sort of went back and forth about what kind of story I was interested in telling. And ultimately, Gringolandia it's actually a play about closure and saying goodbye to your parents under the sort of device of a cultural identity play. It is very much about Cuba. It's not very political. I would say it really does focus on the cultural stuff. But it is set in Cuba, completely set in Cuba. And it's sort of a journey play. It's a play about a trip.
Okay, well, it sounds like that trip is extremely complicated.
Yes. Well, yeah, it is. I mean, considering that, the cruise ships have been shut down and people can't just easily go at the moment. I would say so.
Okay. Right now, the United States relationship with Cuba is, of course, post-Castro, which is what everybody knows about from the beginning. Are there many people returning to Cuba?
I can't necessarily speak to that, honestly. I think Miami in particular it's very divided in the opinion of whether people should or shouldn't. And I don't really have the numbers. But what I will say is that in the past year, I have been twice.
Okay. What does it mean to somebody who's been in exile from their homeland for 50 years ago? Is that the length of time for this character?
Yeah.
Okay.
Give or take. 40.
All right. Very long time. Enough time for significant changes to have happened both in Cuba, massively in Cuba, and probably equally so with the man. Is my complicated way of asking this, but can it still be home considering those changes?
Well, that's a really good question. I think that's one of the main questions that the play asks. I don't think I have an answer to that yet. I think that because I am a quote young person, I can't quite speak. I'm still learning about what it means to leave a place for that long, because I can't I don't have a real understanding of that amount of passage of time yet. That's something that as a playwright, I'm really trying to make sure that I understand to communicate the story well. I think it's different for everyone. I think ultimately there is a big shock to returning to a place that you felt was your home and may not feel that way anymore, or you may not have an understanding of what home really feels like. I think it gets really muddled for a lot of people and really emotional.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. What does home mean to you?
Well, as someone who has been sort of traveling around the country working, I sort of lose my grip on what that is. But I will ultimately say it's more who I'm comfortable with. I don't think it's aware. I will admit, though, when I do go back to Miami, I live in New York now. When I do go back into Miami and I get off the airport and the humid, wet air hits me in the face and the faint smell of like croquetas hits me, I admit, I'm like, oh, maybe this is what home feels like, even though I don't live there anymore. But I don't know. I think it's true that, home is where the heart is. I do think that is true. So that's the closest I've got.
Good enough. Yeah, it's not an easy question. I think it's different for everybody. And we've been hit with so many written ideals, artistic written ideals about, you can't go home again, and home is this and home is that, and finding a place where one absolutely fits is pretty much subjective for everybody. Yes, I agree that finding a place where everything is familiar can qualify as home, but you also said something different. You said home is where you are and the people you are with. Did I remember that correctly?
I don't remember what I said, but
Okay.
but it sounds nice. I like that.
Yeah. The idea of a peripatetic home, the idea of someone who is not, I don't know, nailed down in one particular geographical location with people who share a language, a religion, a way of thinking about the world in general, traditional cultural traditions, as opposed to non-traditional traditions, I guess. It's a whole new concept, I think, to be explored. Not that it's new, but I do think it's something. Yeah, it's is home is you.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that we come to discover within Gringolandia. It's this idea, and I know that personally I've experienced this, like when the first time I ever went to Cuba, and so did, I think, if I can speak to some of my family members, this idea that when you're in one place, you feel by comparison to the people around you one way, right? Like, oh, when I am in Montana, the state of Montana, I feel so Hispanic, let me tell you. Like, I feel very Hispanic. People ask me, where are you from? And with this sort of like glimmer in their eye, knowing that I'm not quite, like, they don't really know what to think of me. But let me tell you, when I am in Havana, I feel like the biggest gringo you've ever known. And I think that's another theme that we go into in this play. And, what happens when you arrive to a place like that and it's where you're from and you don't feel like you're a part of it anymore, what that does to people, how they sort of come to terms with that. That's a big theme in the play.
Yeah, that's it's got to be perplexing having one idea about who you are based on everything you've been in your life collectively up until now, and then going someplace where you think you have an attachment and finding out that you may be looked at differently. Correct.
And yeah.
How did you handle that?
How did I handle it? Well, I continuously handle that. I continuously handle this in a bigger way as an actress all the time, because people always tell me what I am and what I'm not. People who are not part of my demographic tend to tell me what I am rather than ask me as far as like my ethnic identity goes, right, or my ethnicity in general. So that's something that I've been used to. I've been dealing with, with my career as an actor all the time, with things like, oh, great, she's a light-skinned Latina. That's safe. That's what we want. Or, you're kind of light-skinned for a Latina. That's not what Latinas are supposed to look like. We're going to go with something that we think is what you all are, when the you all is so broad. I mean, people who really understand Latinx culture and identity know that Latin people come in a wide array of shapes and colors and blah, blah, blah. So it's something that I deal with every day.
Where is Gringolandia now, and where is it heading?
Yeah, so, well, it's currently still being written. I have a draft actually near me right now on the coffee table. So I am writing it for Zoetic Stage, which is a big regional theater down in Miami. We have, I think we're doing an early reading this summer, I think. And we are premiering basically almost exactly a year from now. We open, it runs in May 2020, so almost a year from now. I think it's got May 2020, and I think it closes May 24th. And after its Miami premiere, we're looking to bring it to New York.
To New York, huh?
Yeah, that's the goal.
Broadway, off Broadway?
Well, we'll see.
What's the development process like? I mean, you're talking about this is going to happen a year from now, and I'm a huge advocate of development, but I have not been in a process that has extended that long. How did the project come about? And to ask a really stupid question, why is it taking a year?
That's not a stupid question at all. That's not a stupid question. How it started. Interestingly, my playwriting career and my acting career, they do go hand in hand. They are parallel and they intersect. I was actually in a production of Fun Home. I was playing Joan in Fun Home at Zoetic Stage, unrelated to anything playwriting. And I was working there for this company, and I just started talking to the team about my plays, and they were looking at what I was doing, and I talked to them about this one particular play, which was Gringolandia, that I said would be a great Miami play for obvious reasons. And at some point in that long dialogue over the course of a few weeks, they came to me and they said, we would like to commission you to write it, because it was just an idea at the time. I had the general pitch, and I had a few scenes and a few things sort of scribbled down, a few things written, but it was by no means a finished play.
Oh yeah.
And that's how it came about. That's how it came about. And to answer your question, why a year? Well, I do tend to write things quickly. I do tend to pump out material fast, but it's hard to spend your entire day writing a play when you have to,
I know. I wish I could.
We learn that. It's hard. It's hard. I have, it's a commission, which is amazing. But I still have to, I've got a lot of bills to pay, and I have to continue doing other work to supplement the playwriting. I mean, it is a job. It is of course it was a job that I am getting paid for. But
wouldn't it be nice if it was a job that you could just do without having to worry about anything else?
Right. Yeah. There's other things that I have to do to support myself. Until opening.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the reason. I think, and then I do think that even though some people pump out material quickly, there's a lot of rewrites that are going to need to get done. It is a big play. It's not a large cast, but it is a very big play.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of work to be done. I think that, and I think that it's better to take, if the resources are there, it's much better to take, a year and really make sure you've covered every corner when it comes to like research and everything. Again, because it's set in Cuba, and Cuba, it tends to be very complicated. Cuba's stories tend to be very complicated because, for example, as I started writing, there has been already one big shift in America-Cuba relations, right? The cruise ships and the travel laws. So just in the course of me writing it, I went, oh great, well now I have to go back and I have to go and change the play because it's different. And I'm sure by the time the play opens, things will have changed again. So I think because it's such a contemporary play about such a contemporary thing, having a year gives us the ability to keep it as fresh as possible, to keep it up to date.
What's your feedback been like? I mean, who are you working with, and what kind of form does that take? Because I think a lot of playwrights out there who have not been through a commission, or a development process like this have no idea what to expect when other people comment on what they've written.
Right. Well, to be fair, it will be different depending on the where you're working, just because every team is different. But for example, so for Zoetic Stage, I'm working with Stuart Meltzer and Michael McKeever, and most of my sort of note taking and giving comes from Stuart Meltzer, who is one of the artistic directors with Zoetic Stage, and I think there's a possibility we might also be working with a dramaturg. That's to be announced. The who and the if is still to be announced, but we're hoping to also work with a Cuban American dramaturg / director. They won't be directing on this project, but they are a director.
Somebody with the experience, yeah.
Yeah, someone with the experience, but also with the cultural awareness and knowledge of it. we really think could also help contribute. So that's TBA. But yeah, so with this case, basically, I do my back and forth with one person, and then throughout the year, they set specific deadlines for me every couple of months. There's a draft due here, there's a draft due here, and in between, let's have a reading, for example. Maybe it's a private reading. The next reading might be a public invited reading, maybe just for the sponsors or the board members of the theater. I'm just giving examples of how it could work.
Right. Yeah.
So that's how this process is happening.
Sounds great, actually.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah. Okay, so let's jump shift a little bit here. Excuse me. I want to piggyback on something we started addressing a little while ago, and that is inappropriate casting, also known as whitewashing, where a role for a person of color is given to a white person completely inappropriately for that particular part. And before we actually get into your play, you had a link to 25 of the most egregious cases of Hollywood whitewashing, that when you look through this list, and I knew a bunch of them because I'm kind of familiar with the subject myself, but some of them were just, you stand there and you shake your head and think, who in their right mind would have thought this was a good idea in any way, shape, or form? And you look at the way these white actors were cast in roles, for people of color, for Asians, for people who were non-white, and you just wonder at who was watching the TV at this time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, my main thought on whitewashing in general is pretty, I try to keep it simple. First and foremost, what we're doing in film or theater, it's all make-believe, right? It's all pretend. Right. There's always this argument of, well, then what's the limit, right? It's all pretend. It's all make-believe. You don't have to be a serial killer to play a serial killer. We hope, right? Yes, that is true. But for me, it's about jobs. It's about jobs, because ultimately when you give a white actor the opportunity to stretch and play, ultimately you are taking a job away from an actor of color who, even today, I really do believe will have less opportunities to stretch and play. There is the counter argument that, well, nowadays, there's colorblind casting, right? Like, we cast people of color in Shakespeare, in plays that have nothing to do with color or race. And that is all well and good, and that is true. I still don't think that the numbers match yet. I think it's getting better. But it's not, I want to clarify, it's not about being PC for me. It's not about that at all. It's about who is really being given a chance to tell their story, and who will tell it better. Who will tell it better? I do believe that, even if a piece you're doing is stylized, I think you can lose out a lot if you don't cast it. I don't know, if you don't cast it appropriately. I don't know. I'm just a firm believer in equitable employment. It's not really about being PC for me. That's it. That's my spiel.
Okay. I wasn't exactly expecting that, which is fine, because I'm speaking from a white male cisgender point of view here, and trying to encourage talk about this and to get absolutely, because
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it needs to be addressed constantly. I think.
And my play Whitewash. This is one of my newest plays that I'm developing with director Tatiana Pandiani. It is about a case of whitewashing, and it's a play about a play, but it's actually a whodunit. It's a whodunit. Yeah, it's sort of like a whodunit classic play that takes place in one night, and it is about a production of the play Bad Jews, which I have done as an actress a couple of times. And it's a play about a production of Bad Jews in which the lead actress, who they have cast to play the main Jewish character, who is described very specifically and physically in the play, she walks after the first week and a half of rehearsal, and she disappears. And so the play is about the white male director who has to replace her, and what happens as a result.
So the actor just walked, no word, no nothing.
Correct.
Wow.
Just disappears. All of her things are gone from company housing. Her car is gone. Her things are gone. She's just gone.
How long before the play goes up? I mean, the play within the play.
Yeah, 4 days to really heighten the stakes.
Oh.
So they've got 4 days to find an actress who's done the play before. Mm-hmm. That's
got to be tricky.
Yes.
Talk about a rock and a hard place. So this play is also in development?
Correct.
You're
correct,
busy.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Busy. I'm very, very grateful and very lucky to be busy. That's what I'll say about being busy. I'm very grateful. We are actually this weekend on Saturday. It's Wednesday. It's June. It's 2019. Great. This weekend we are we're doing a little workshop and a reading at the Timucua Arts Foundation in Orlando, Florida.
Okay.
So we're going down to Orlando, and we're going to do a reading on Sunday, 7:30. We'll see. We'll see. This is a tough play. I will say, it's and what I mean by tough is people are going to have strong reactions to it one way or the other. I think it might be hard to stay in the middle as an audience member, in the middle of the core argument. I think. Well, we're going to find out. We don't really know yet, but that's my speculation.
Well, people love to have opinions about tricky subjects.
They do, and it is very tricky. It also deals, excuse me, it also deals a little bit with sexuality in the workplace. I don't mean sexual identity in the workplace. I mean, it deals with a little bit of sexual harassment in the workplace and, in the entertainment industry. That's also sort of tied into the core of the play as well.
You threw a few things into this, didn't you?
Just a few.
You've worked with, you mentioned you're working with Tatiana Pandiani on this.
Yeah.
You've worked with her before, correct? Was it Dyke?
Yes, Dyke, yes.
Okay, so you two know each other, and she knows your work, and
correct.
Yeah, all right.
Correct, yeah. She did my play Dyke as her 2050 fellowship, which I think is the culminating final project for her fellowship at the New York Theater Workshop. Mm-hmm. So we did that, and then we did a developmental production at Urbanite Theater in Sarasota, Florida. It was a really great production. Yeah, Dyke is a four person cast, 4 young females, and it deals with very simply religion and sexuality, and religion in millennials. Yeah, so Tatiana has helped me extensively work on that play, and that's another play she and I are also sort of still pitching around and throwing out there and trying to get out there.
Good luck with that. That's the hardest part of the business.
It is.
Yeah. You wrote that, quote, "Some of my plays are violently different from each other." Now that is a unique and, to me, unexpected choice of adjective. Can you give us some idea of what you mean by violent?
Sure. I think that for me as a writer, it's important that, when someone sees one of your plays and then they see another one of your plays, they don't necessarily go, "Oh yeah, this is a Hannah play. Oh yeah, I get it. Like, I get how these are similar." I have several plays that are, I use the term violently different from each other because as far as form goes, my goal with some of them really are to not be able to be able to distinguish my writer voice, so it doesn't sound the same in every play. That's a goal I have. My writer voice is similar between some plays. I would say, like I have a play called BitCon. Between BitCon and another one, the writer voice is kind of similar, but Dyke and, for example, my play Grey Mare are completely different. The writer voices, I tried to completely exterminate my writer voice between the two. And so that's what I mean. So that each play doesn't have the same vibe, the same feel, even if the plays have overlapping themes. That's something that I really, that's important to me personally. I don't think every writer needs to adhere to that. I think every writer is free to do whatever they want. But for me, that's something I try to maintain. So yeah, and that's something that I think that I've been trying to push a lot more lately.
That can't be easy. I know when I write plays, I try and not do something, at least thematically, that I've done before. But I still find myself dipping into my usual bag of verbal tricks, whether it's going to be puns, whether it's going to be vernacular, whether it's going to be slang, whether it's going to be overlapping dialogue. There are a number of tools in my toolbox, and I tend to reuse them at times. So how are you actually trying, to change your initial voice? Is that what you're getting at?
What I'm getting at, well, I would say that I'm trying to treat some of my plays as sort of like capsuled worlds, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sort of like worlds that are in their own bubbles. The rules work differently in this bubble from the other bubble.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I could totally appreciate that. Not an easy thing to do.
No, I think sometimes what you're describing about how you find yourself sort of going back to similar things, I think for me personally, if I find that I am doing that, it means that I haven't flushed out that theme. I haven't written enough about it. It means that maybe there are more plays that have the same writer voice. Maybe there are. Or maybe it is in one piece and it just needs to be explored deeper. I know that for example, I have so much to say about mixed identity and mixed Latin identity that I've always known that like one play isn't enough. Like Gringolandia is not going to. I have a lot more to explore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have one other sort of. I want to do a Cuba trilogy, and I have one of these plays already written. Gringolandia is the second, and there is a third unwritten that is just an idea. Because I know I have so much more to explore, and it's not just regulated to one story.
Sure.
Sometimes I have to embrace that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge subject and an extremely meaningful one, not just to you, but to all the people from whom this play comes. All the people who are the basis for these plays, and I can't see one play covering the subject. No.
It's too broad, and it's too, I think, relatable for even people who aren't Hispanic. I think even if you are an immigrant or you are the child of immigrants, even if they are not Hispanic immigrants, I think there will be a lot of overlap, and I think with that play specifically too, I think people who aren't Hispanic or who have no connection to the immigrant or assimilation experience, they're going to see it and go, oh, this is just a play about a family. I get it. I have a family, or I had a family. Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Plain and simply.
Do you find that people tend to look for the simple and shy away from the complex? Because it sounds like what you're doing is exploring the complexity. And that makes your work much, much harder. Not only in the writing, but I think also in the eventual acceptance of that. Do people want to think that hard? And has that worked against you?
Right. Well, I don't think you have to think that hard. I think that, and I do believe that. No, I don't think. I think some people do want to think that hard. I think some people don't want to think at all when they go to the theater. So I think that your job as a playwright, and this is what I believe I do, is to create a story that allows for both. You can go and see my play, and you can get it. You can lean in, and you can really get everything, everything that's going on, every complicated question, every plot turn, and walk out and go, wow, I have been an intellectual today. I'm so proud of myself as an audience member. Or you can go, wow, I'm really enjoying these people, this argument, or I'm really enjoying this spectacle, or I'm really enjoying this image, or this, maybe I didn't really get this and then get this, but boy, I like it when people, when people tell jokes or fight, or, just simple stuff. I do think that I try to give everyone something in my plays, and I think that's what a good play does. But I try not to. But I also think it's important not to. The play needs to be what it needs to be, and if you try and make it something it's not, if you fight it,
Yeah.
you're gonna. It's not gonna be good.
It's like getting a person to try and change who they are just to fit in.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. Everybody knows, well, a lot of people know it's phony, and you know it's phony, and you're not happy with it.
Yeah.
And that just colors everything you do from then on, because if you can, it's change it to make it fit, then instead of letting it be what it needs to
absolutely.
be. Plays grow up to be certain unique identities. They do.
Yeah. And I think that also within a play, and again, depending on its capsule, its own world, I think that there can be a lot of, for example, like when I'm writing something that tends to be, it's hard sometimes to classify if one of my plays is a dark comedy, if it's a comedy, because I believe, for example, in writing in general and storytelling, like, nothing makes the dark darker than light, right? So in my darkest play, I promise you, I will have many, many jokes, because I just think it's more effective. So as far as, if I say I'm going to write this really intense dark piece, because that's what I think people will want to see, I'm setting myself up for failure if I do that. If I feel like I know that the audience is going to need a light release, that's what needs to be there.
Yeah.
So again, that sort of battle between what you think your audience wants and what you just need to do, and what feels natural. Yeah, it's a constant issue worrying about God, is it going to be marketable if I don't worry about the audience?
I struggle with that a lot. I have given up trying to wonder if it's marketable. I just let the play be what the play needs to be, and it ends up telling me the tone. Is it going to be a comedy? Is it going to be funny? Is it not going to be a comedy? But I want to talk about your idea of comedy, because you've written a novel. Trains Go to Hell Faster. I love the title. That's great. But the tagline is, an impoverished college student accidentally kills a car full of sorority girls when a prank goes too far. A bleeped-up adventure comedy.
Yeah.
Can you explain your idea of comedy, please?
Yeah.
Because I think I like it. I'm just not sure.
Yeah. So the novel is called Trains to Hell Go Faster, and it is. It's just a messed up comedy, man. It really is. It is. I've sort of taken a classic adventure structure. Like if you think about classic adventure sort of journey stories, you think a lot of like pirate movies, sort of sort of westerns have a similar. We start here, we go somewhere else, we end somewhere else, or we end right where we started. It's the most. Dare I say it's the most. I don't want to say it's the most millennial thing I've written, but it's about being in college and being up to your cojones in debt. And this sort of question that a lot of my contemporaries are asking now, which is like, is it worth the financial calamity this may cause me? in the future, and how college really can affect our lives in that way. Don't get me wrong; I'm by no means anti-education. I don't ever want anyone to think that.
Well, education is not limited to college.
Correct, exactly, and that's one of the things that the novel deals with. But to get back to your question about what is my idea of comedy, I guess a lot of things make me laugh, George. I might have a really screwed up sensibility. But ultimately, what's comedy? Something that I think is going to make me laugh. I mean, I think that the humor in a lot of my pieces, specifically in the novel, they range from highbrow humor to the most vile toilet humor you can muster. And I think having that range within a piece, within a story, if it calls for it, is important. Right? I mean, think about Shakespeare. I'm not comparing myself to Shakespeare, but what I mean is, he has the most incredible literary wordplay and hilarious text-based humor, and then he has a fart joke.
And I apologize for getting the title of your novel wrong.
Okay.
My typing is not what it should be.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay, let's kick back to playwriting, because I got a couple more questions here, and we were talking about development before, and I just want to make this a quick question. Your play Ash in Johannesburg, which you wrote a while back, you wrote that you had over 8 drafts of this while it was in development. Now, how do you go through 8 drafts, and B, how different was the play when it ended up than what you had originally conceived?
Mm-hmm. Well, I will say that with Ash in Johannesburg, which is it's a period piece set in the 70s. That probably is really shocking to hear for some people, but it's a play about Arthur Ashe, the tennis player. His one of his trips to South Africa during apartheid. And so one of the basic reasons why there are so many drafts is because I had to do a crazy amount of research. I watched I have a stack of books I read. I've seen every documentary. Between the Arthur Ashe research and the general South African history research I've done, it took a long time. And every time I would work on a draft and I'd continue reading source material, I would discover something that would have to change something I had written in the play, or I would have to add something or consider it. So because it was truly a research play and a historical biography play, it took a lot of drafts. And honestly, I think that there's probably, it's premiered already, but I bet that I could still change it. Based on research alone, not based on dramaturgic need or theatrical necessity. I'm just talking about based on research.
Yeah. No, with every decade we pass, we have more access to facts.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, and historical plays are notorious for being probably the most difficult to write, specifically due to the fact that you have to do the research.
Yeah.
And there's nobody there to tell you how to do the research, so you have to kind of muddle through, bumping your head into closets and things like that, trying to find books.
Exactly. And I actually think that if the play were to go somewhere else, I think I would sort of want to do a round 2 of research and probably work with either an Arthur Ashe expert or a South African researcher to see what else we could find along the way.
Cool. You take on a lot of difficult subjects here.
I do.
Good. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so I'm going to go with a real easy question. Why playwriting? Why did you start playwriting? And did you have a background in theater? Was there some moment in your life where it occurred to you, hey, I might be good at this? Or I might like to do this. Whether or not you're good at something is kind of, it's subjective.
Right. I don't really think I've thought about that before.
We can wait.
Yeah. I mean, what I will say is it started in high school. I went to New World School of the Arts, high school in Miami, and my two playwriting teachers, I think I had Marco Ramirez first, and then Terrell Alvin McCraney was my second playwright teacher there in high school. And so that's when it started. And I was writing plays in high school. Yeah, that's all I've got for you. I never really think I had an aha moment. I think I was always writing, even when it wasn't plays, or I was always writing. And I had an amazing public school education at New Orleans, and even my my regular creative writing classes were incredible. So I was always dabbling.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Sounds like you had a good background for that. Let's see. What would you like to see happen in the world of theater in the next 10 years, and what role would you like to play in such changes?
Oh, you're going to hit me with the big question.
But this is in cap letters. Huge concept questions, right. For when my guests are hopefully warmed up.
Yeah. I'm warm. Well, I think so. The first part of the question was, what do I want to see happen in the next 10 years? Okay. Well, I think I'm starting to see what I want to happen happening. I think a show like Hadestown is a kind of example of what I would have tried to describe before it existed. Mm-hmm. I don't think I would have described it as well, but I think that would have been what I was thinking about. So I think that's an example of what I want there to be more of, taking steps down that direction. Not limited to that kind of piece, obviously, but this is where we need to go. That's my vague answer to the first part of the question. And the second part of the question was, what was it again?
What role would you like to play in such changes that you have just described? How do you want to be involved?
Oh, I would like to be at a creator of something like that. I would like to be creating content, and I would like to be in content as well. I'm not a fan of doing my own plays early on in their process. I'm not a fan of doing first productions of them, which is sort of why I lead with creating them first and sitting on the sidelines, sitting in the audience. So creating the content.
Okay. Well, it seems like you're already well on the road to doing that in the first place.
I hope so.
Yeah. How important is it to you to sit on the sidelines and let others tinker, play, experiment, mess with, take your words and your structure and your play and bring it into their bounce playroom and have a go with it?
Well, it's an important skill to learn as a playwright because it is inevitable. So just for one thing, you've got to learn how to let people do that because it's going to happen. You're not going to be involved in every production and every reading in every, so you simply have to learn how to do that. And then I think is also important because if the people tinkering are artists you trust, people you trust, and whose work and whose opinions you trust, they want to make the play better. They want to make the play better. They probably don't want to make your play worse. So odds are, if it's a person you trust, you should listen to them. Not everybody who contributes, you may secretly not value their opinion. You may not think they're any good. And you might have to work with them. And that's also a skill that you have to learn how to do. Oh,
that's a critical skill.
Yeah. How to navigate that.
Thank you very much. I'm going to write that down. Yeah, unfortunately, not everybody sees it that way, but everybody's creative process is different. Hey, this has been fun. Thank you so much for taking the time and being a guest on my lowly, humble podcast. Tell my audience where they can find out more about you, because it seems like you've got so much going on and there's so much to find out.
Well, I have my writer site is hannahbenitezwriter.com, and my performer site is hannahbenitez.com. There you go, plain and simple.
Very simple. That's good. Even I can remember that.
Yeah.
Hannah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Hey kids, thanks for listening to Onstage Offstage. Onstage Offstage is produced monthly, and all of our shows can be found at onstageoffstage.org and also on iTunes. If you enjoy what we do, please recommend us to your friends. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at OnOffStage. And if you are a theater artist with an upcoming project of interest or work in a part of theater we haven't covered yet, or know of someone in the theater world who'd make some great chat, please send us a note at info@onstageoffstage.org. Onstage Offstage believes in and advocates for a world where all people are free to live their lives as they wish, in peace and without fear. We believe in universal respect, diversity, and equality in all areas of life for all people, no matter what their nationality, race, religion, age, sexual status, or gender. Onstage Offstage will never promote or endorse those who seek to diminish others because of who they are. I'm George Sapio. Thank you once again, and happy theatering to all of you.